obviously should give it to someone that would probably hold the Hall of Fame to a higher regard, like, obviously Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H, Paul Levesque does. I mean, he spent a lot of time this Bruno deal, which obviously wasn't just the Hall of Fame deal. It's a comprehensive deal for home video releases, and who knows, maybe even funding the Bruno movie that's in the mix. But I really feel it's lost its essence in a way. I mean, you have no real strategy for how you're going to roll out the Hall of Fame from year to year. It's almost like it's a wild goose hunt, and then you try to scramble to get everyone in there, and sometimes you overbook it, and sometimes you kind of underbook it. And sometimes it's just it's a hodgepodge, and you get weird, bizarro people in there, and you have the head-scratching guys like Coco Beware. What's that about? There's a long list of guys, both that were more talented as a prelim talent, and more recognizable than Coco was from his own era. So it's very odd. And Vince is the guy that kind of will just pull these names out of his ass and kind of dictate it. He does take a suggested list of names from the inner circle and considers them all, and sometimes ignores them all. And so, you have a list this year that, Mick Foley's on it, and I think he's a guy that could have headlined his own class. And so, again, it goes back to strategy and long-term planning. It's not like he's going anywhere. He could have waited a year, could have waited 2-3 years to induct him. I don't think it really necessarily has to do with the market. And, it's in New York, so let's put Mick in there. It's just, I think they didn't know if they were going to get Bruno, and they wanted to make sure they had that shored up, and he was their backup along with DX and apparently maybe even the NWO or whatever they were going to do. And obviously they got Bruno and they got Mick, obviously, and then they just filled out the rest. And of course we talked a little bit about Undertaker and Punk, and so your prediction for that match?
I think I think Undertaker takes it. I think
okay.
I don't know if they're going to do something with the urn. He gets the urn back. Yeah, I guess it's pointless now anyway since the ashes have been dumped. But
do you foresee a hologram Paul Bearer, a la Tupac hologram, at some point in the show?
Yeah, nothing would surprise me with the way this. There was one of the guys that works on the site after Paul Bearer had passed away. Wanted to put a poll up asking if WWE was going to use Paul Bearer's death in the CM Punk Undertaker angle, and I was like, no, don't even put it up. There's no way they're going to do that. It's too tasteless.
Come on, how long have you been watching this product? Come on.
Yeah, I gave a little too much credit, I think, and here we are. But they could do something completely out of left field if Undertaker, had quietly told him that this is in fact his last match, and then have CM Punk go over. You've booked Undertaker for WrestleMania, or
right.
Worked with WWE for Undertaker matches at WrestleMania before. What was the thinking going into it? Like, is it more about the streak, or the future of the streak? What kind of
everything's considered, everything's explored. Nothing is always a lock that Undertaker, or at least when I was there, the Undertaker's going to go over. I think that's changed a bit in the last few years. I remember there was a time when Mark Henry, the first time he had a real major significant heel run, and he pretty much had adapted this new persona that you see now, where he's talking about splitting wigs down to the white meat and all these cool, deep, violent promos that he started doing. I mean, it was pretty ominous stuff, very strong. And that was the first time Vince kind of raised that eyebrow and said, well, maybe this is the year that someone takes the streak, because Mark's it would really kind of seal the deal, and Mark is the upper echelon type guy. And everyone just looked around like, and was, if you had said this a few years earlier, and Mark Henry's sexual chocolate, the dude that always would get, caught up with an injury and just never, it was kind of like a joke. I mean, that would have been shocking, but here we were, and we were all thinking about it, and it was something that was considered. So those years when you think about those things, like Randy Orton, the year that he almost took the streak at WrestleMania 21 in L.A., so there's always those kind of times when you do consider those things, and Undertaker's very involved, every aspect, and I was very much intricately involved with the booking of the introduction of Great Khali when he came in not as a dancing bear, more or less, but as he came, which he is now, this guy that was this huge monster that would come in and destroyed Undertaker when he debuted years back, and Undertaker had never been ragdolled like that. And, Undertaker was very giving and very generous. Talk about a guy that has no ego but just wants to do good business for the company and get a guy over. He got over Khali huge then. And but every little aspect of the program is bounced off Taker, and he has exceptional ideas. And for a guy that's been around that company for so long, he has no ego and is super laid back about things. That surprised me, because some guys, I don't care what people say about Shawn Michaels, he's a cool dude, no doubt, but has the halo overtaken the devil horns totally over the years? Absolutely not. Those horns do definitely pop up from time to time. With Undertaker, he's very mellow. He's not a guy that's gonna jump back and freak out if you hear something. He's gonna think about it, consider it, and have a really good answer for you when he's pondered it. And one thing that I don't think I've ever talked about is Undertaker and his final run and what would have been his farewell tour. And we touched upon it when I was at WWE and what it could be. And Undertaker's opinion was that he would like to return to his roots and bring back the old school Taker with the gray gloves and more of the graveyard persona than the guy with the singlet top and the black leather pants and the MMA gloves. He really would be authentic Undertaker for that last run and do kind of like a farewell tour in that kind of, because we had talked about bringing back that persona earlier, and he's like, I really want to hold that off for the final run. So whether that's the case today and when that moment happens where he does retire, who knows? I mean, my vision for what I would do would change from year to year based on circumstances and how my beliefs would change on something. And then the question comes up as I talk about this, when does that final run occur for Taker? Do you think it's WrestleMania 30? Do you think it's WrestleMania 35? I mean, this guy is a great worker, but I feel that in the last few years his matches, I know I'm in the minority, I feel his matches weren't as great as a lot of people thought. I think he's a guy that's got a lot of damage from a lot of wars. He's a great athlete at 6'10", but when you're doing those spots with the flipping clothesline and top rope bumps and everything, his hip is a mess, his back, his knees, his shoulder. He's not a spring chicken, and you got to wonder, how much longer do you go without compromising the legacy? And I know Taker is very, very mindful of that.
Yeah, I really do believe that WrestleMania 30 will be it. I mean, I think it's the fact that it's WrestleMania 30. I think it's fitting close, but you never know. I mean, going out with 20-0, and that's something I felt like it'd be interesting to know what the creative idea was before Paul Bearer passed away, how they were going to do this match. I mean, they had to have had something, because this match has been rumored for a while, and it almost seemed like it would have been better if Undertaker did say like this is going to be the last WrestleMania, or even announce his retirement and then have CM Punk coming out and saying he wants a match with Taker and really exit on and to get that match because he wants to break the streak. But the way they went, it's turned into pure comedy. When they did that final angle of the biggest WrestleMania of all time, and it's CM Punk dumping the ashes out. No one believed those were really his ashes. So it's something that was just so cartoony. I mean, it's one thing that would have been entertaining for a B show like Vengeance or something like that in the past, and had he not really passed away, but passed away in storyline. But doing that on your go home show, I thought it was a really weak way to do your final angle before the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that you're going to look back on in a few years. Everyone's going to roll their eyes. I mean, they are kind of now. It'll be one of those, hokey things. I mean, this is kind of it's just bad acting all the way around. It's bad creative. I think CM Punk, personally, my feeling is if I was booking CM Punk, let's play fantasy booker, I believe he's a guy that works best in circumstances where you have a heightened sense of reality, and he kind of breaks through that fourth wall and kind of, is this real? Is this happening? And in a cool way, not in the Vince Russo, we're shooting here, brother way, but in a real way that kind of has something that's grounded in reality. This is nothing like that. But people really were invested in him when he was going to leave at Money in the Bank, when he kind of tells the truth about guys, whether it was The Rock going into the Rumble. They liked that. That's what they want out of their CM Punk. He can be a schemer and all those cool things too, and get into more of the wrestling end of the character, but he has to be rooted in reality, and I just don't see that with this. Maybe if he was saying he doesn't believe in the magic and the hocus pocus, and he's an intelligent man, and don't try to pull that smoke and mirror crap on me, without going that hard with it. But kind of calling shenanigans on Undertaker's mojo. Maybe there's something they could have done there. I think there could have been a lot of things they could have done, but in the end, they went with this hokey thing, and I think there's a disconnect. And I do think that Undertaker is one of those dynamic characters that can do the monster match where he's facing guys like Giant Gonzalez, King Kong Bundy, Kane, and so on and so forth. But he also can do those matches with Steve Austin. But he has to have some sort of connection to reality. There has to be some sort of consequences and some sort of connection there. The whole thing, the story with Hunter is it really came down to, I can beat you. I know I can, which is ironically kind of what they're doing this year with John Cena and The Rock. But that was the story last year with Hunter and Taker, and that clicked. That made sense. It was logical. And you didn't have, Undertaker shooting lightning out of his ass to get that story over. You don't need that always. And in this case, you're kind of almost parodying Taker and Punk in that weird way with this angle. So it's not benefiting either, man. And to me, it's when you have such limited access to the Undertaker because of his advancing age as a giant guy, it's very hard to get around just in general, but a guy that's been very active and is very talented. You want to make sure that you have a pretty bulletproof concept at play, and it really feels like this thing was kind of shotgunned the second Undertaker gave the thumbs up, and they really didn't have a great plan. Or they signed off on something they believed would be successful, and it turned out it really is just a disaster. Or Vince is just captaining the ship and taking it off the edge of the world. I mean, that's happened before. I was there when it happened with Eddie and how he exploited that death. And, he manipulated enough people in the Guerrero family, including Chavo, to believe that this is what Eddie would have wanted. And a lot of people didn't buy into that, but certain people that needed to perform did, and some didn't, but they knew they didn't want to lose their jobs, so they went along with it, like Randy Orton. And it's like, he's the guy, and there's not another place to go, and so you're just gonna hope that this is a quickie and you're over with it. I can tell you, Shawn wasn't enamored with exploiting religion and wrestling God and getting exposed, or not getting exposed, but getting called out by Vince about God and all that stuff. But that was part of their feud back in the day, and it was stupid. It was ridiculous. It was preposterous. It was a waste of TV time. But Vince gets the wild hair up his ass and thinks something's cool, or if he wants to prove something is not, he's gonna just go and go and go until he just beats the death out of you with it.
All right, and moving on to Brock Lesnar and Triple H.